श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरे हरे श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरे हरे श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरे हरे श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरे हरे तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी 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 हरे हरे हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायण श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी हरि हरि तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी हरि हरि नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि 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 ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायण हरि ओम नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी 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 हरि 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 ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायण श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि Hari Hari, Sriman Narayana Narayana 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 Hari Hari. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Everyone together. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Welcome to Satsang. We'll start as always with a question that's come in advance and then open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. Why are people sometimes so self-absorbed in their own pain that they refuse to see or acknowledge the other person's suffering? How do you make such a person understand that the other person is also suffering? The nature of emotional suffering is actually usually such that we are self-absorbed. The two things go together. When I am suffering, inevitably, I tend to be self-absorbed. The dilemma comes when my suffering is something that is longer term. So think for a moment about, let's say a tragedy happens in a family member passes away. Everybody in that family is going through their own loss, their own suffering, their own difficulties. Especially if you end up, say, in a situation where a husband or wife has died. Obviously, the one who's left behind is suffering, but the kids are suffering. And so inevitably, there's that challenge of the parent who's left behind to, on the one hand, deal with their own suffering, but on the other hand, also be there for the children. And it's a challenge because, again, when we suffer, we tend to be, of course, we're self-absorbed. And this is true, by the way, whether it's emotional. It's also true if it's just physical. You fall down, you break your leg. You're in excruciating physical pain. They rush you to the hospital. You are much less likely to notice the poor people on the side of the road as you're being rushed to the hospital. Will you just close that door? Thanks. Thank you so much. You're much less likely to notice the poor people on the side of the road while you're being rushed to the hospital, grasping your leg that's gushing blood and the bones are sticking out of it and you're, on the verge of fainting from shock. So any level of suffering is going to make us instinctively more self-absorbed. Now, in a short run, there isn't a major problem with that. It happens, it's just part of life. As we grieve, as we suffer, as we heal, we go within. We tend to sort of become much like a turtle that pulls itself in to heal. The dilemma arises when what we are suffering is longer term, or even much more of an aspect of our personality than I'm suffering because I've broken my leg, or I'm suffering because someone I love has just died, or I'm suffering because I'm going through, got fired from my job, or I'm going through a divorce, or some moment of life. A lot of times we have people who are just emotionally suffering. And it's much more a trait of who they are. And the dilemma with that is that A, they can't see other people suffering because they're so self-absorbed. But B, they also end up tending to cause other people's suffering due to their suffering. So the why of the question isn't nearly as important as the what do we do about it question. When we are the one who is suffering, something has happened in our life, loss, pain, no problem. Allow yourself to go within. Doesn't have to necessarily be the time that you're most productive at work. Doesn't necessarily have to be the time that you manage the bake sale at school and you're the one, taking care of everything. But you don't want to lose your connection to the deeper truth of who you are. Because see, here's the thing. Remember that suffering is an emotional response. Pain is in the body. I fall, I break my leg, pain. But the, oh my God, why me? This isn't fair. I was headed on vacation to the Caribbean. Why don't I get to do anything I ever want to do? Why is it that everything that good is going to happen in my life ends up getting ruined? That's the suffering. Pain is physical body sending pain signals, broken leg. Mental response to it, suffering. People at work are mean to me. Mental suffering. I didn't get the raise I should have gotten. That guy got the raise. I'm 3 times as good as he is. I should have gotten it. That's not fair. Mental suffering. I've lost someone I love due to death, due to divorce, due to some other way. We experience it physically. There's actually a lot of scientific evidence now that shows that a broken heart, that pain of a broken heart, literally impacts the body very much in the same way that literally a broken limb or another physical broken element of the body does. So we experience that. But we also experience the emotional, I'll never find anyone again. It's not fair. Why did I have to lose? We, of course, also have the regrets. I should have, I could have, I shouldn't have. As we're going through that, you want to be really sure not to get lost in the drama of your mind. Because that separates you from the truth of who you are. And that truth of who you are, as we were talking last night and we talked so much, is expansive, infinite, connected, one with all. And so if I lose my ability to connect with others, if I lose my ability to have compassion, if I lose my ability to be there for others, with others, then I've lost an aspect of myself. And the way out of suffering, if I've broken a bone, bless you, if I've broken a bone, the way that I will heal is that bone will reconnect itself. If I've got a broken heart, if I've got suffering in my mind, the way that will heal is when I am reconnected to the truth of who I am. This is like my favorite joke that I tell all the time about the guy who goes to the doctor and says to the doctor, there's something very wrong with me. Whatever I touch, it hurts. I touch my head and it hurts, and I touch my back and it hurts, and I touch my stomach and it hurts. Doctor runs all of the tests and the scans, calls the man in at the end, and he says, well, the good news is there's nothing wrong with your back or your stomach or your head. The bad news is your finger's broken. And because your finger's broken, it's always nice telling it to a new audience. You know? I tell it all the time. Most of the audiences have heard it 10 times. But naturally, whatever you touch, it hurts. But the problem isn't the body outside. The problem is the broken finger. And so when we're suffering, whether it's a literal broken bone or whether it's a broken connection, the solution is the same. Put it back. Reconnect. Whether I'm literally reconnecting a bone and then I heal and I will no longer be in pain, or I'm reconnecting myself to the truth of who I am. I'm reconnecting myself to the divine outside of me, inside of me, that is me. Because of course, once you're connected, there is no inside or outside. There is no this side or that side. It's all one. And I mention this very specifically with regard to suffering because our suffering a lot of times is caused by being disconnected. We may think it's caused by a really annoying boss or colleague or neighbor or family member. But that person's ability to impact us so deeply, to actually cause us to suffer, is due to something being broken inside. If I've got a cold or a flu and I sneeze or I cough on you, if your immune system is weak, you're going to get my cold or flu. Give yourself a day or two and you're going to be coughing and sneezing. Weak immune system. But if your immune system is strong, or if you know, actually, I just got coughed or sneezed on by somebody who was sick, I better amp up the vitamin C, I better, drink lots of water, get lots of rest, do good things for myself, and you strengthen your immune system. You don't have to necessarily get sick. The simple fact that I coughed or sneezed on you does not, in and of itself, guarantee you will be sick. That's a physical immune system. But on a spiritual level, when we're surrounded by someone who is suffering emotionally, and who literally coughs, sneezes, vomits, all sorts of things all over everybody around them, but it's not mucus and stomach vomit, it's emotional stuff. It's anger, it's attack, it's judging, it's complaining, it's criticizing, it's all kinds of things. If our spiritual immune system is weak, we get upset. And then we suffer. But if our spiritual immune system is strong, that person can be doing all of their metaphoric coughing, sneezing, puking, whatever they're doing on the world around them. But I'm able to stay grounded, anchored, centered, connected. And that's what's really important, because we're surrounded by people who are suffering. And not only do they tend not to care that you're suffering, but in many cases they tend to exacerbate your suffering or even be the cause of your suffering. And so this is where it's so important to number one, make sure you are connected so that your spiritual immune system is strong, but B, also, so that whatever they're doing or saying, it's not causing you to suffer. You don't need them to act in a certain way, to speak to you in a certain way in order for you to feel okay. But the third piece also is that you don't need them to necessarily care about your suffering. Circling back specifically to the question. A lot of times when we are suffering, we want everybody, of course, to care about our suffering. And if someone else is suffering, they tend not to. But if I'm anchored and grounded and connected, then I tend not to suffer so much. So that's a plus. Tend not to suffer much at all. I've got a very robust spiritual immune system. And B, I don't need someone else to come in and put me back together. I don't need someone's understanding or care in order to reconnect myself. And C, my vision becomes very clear and I'm able to see. And when I'm able to see the truth within myself. So that, of course, reconnects me and puts me back together right away, regrounds me. But B, I'm able to see that other person suffering. You know, Pujya Swamiji always says, if a mad dog bites you, do you run after it? Do you chase it to bite it back? You understand it was a mad dog, right? And if you get bit by a mad dog, you don't end up needing therapy because the dog bit you and you feel like such a victim. You need to go to a hospital and get, it bandaged up and maybe get a rabies shot. But you don't find yourself in psychoanalytic therapy overcoming how you felt to be attacked by that dog, because you understand the dog was sick. When we say mad dog, it means the dog had rabies. That's what mad dog means. It was sick, that's why it bit. And I get that. And so I don't need to go and sit with a therapist or a psychologist or someone who will help me get over feeling like such a victim. Because I know until the dog was sick, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. In the same way, with people around us who are suffering, when they bite us, literally, metaphorically, however it may be, we understand it's because they are in a state of dis-ease. They may not have a diagnosable disease, but they are in a state of dis-ease. That's why they bit us. That's why they've caused us to suffer. And I understand that. And so it doesn't cause me to suffer. Because I know, it's just that they're in a state of disease. So I take care of myself. I bandage my wound if it was physical. If it was non-physical, I learn to just stay away. I connect myself ground myself, anchor myself. And then, if my spiritual immune system is really robust, I pray for them. I practice compassion toward them. If they in their suffering can't care for me, can I in my suffering care for them? And that becomes quite a challenge. But it's a beautiful and exciting challenge, and it's a challenge that takes us right into the core of what a spiritual practice looks like, is not saying why about the other guy, but saying why not about me? Not why can't they do it, but why can't I do it? Why not? Let's try. Can I? And so it becomes very, very beautiful, a very beautiful practice on so many levels. So with that, I'm happy to open it up to any other questions that anyone may have before taking any others that came in advance. Yes, of course.
How to increase the spiritual immunity?
How do we increase our spiritual immunity? Great. So, you know that prayer we recite that says, Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya, right? It's a beautiful, simple but not easy answer to this question. In 3 lines, we've been given a prescription for that spiritual immune system. And if you really take it deeply, for full enlightenment and moksha and everything else you may want. The prayer says, oh God, lead us from untruth to truth. Now, it doesn't mean from only little white lies to the end of little white lies. It doesn't even mean from the end of big cheating lies, or from big cheating lies to the end of big cheating lies. It means lead us from untruth, deep untruth. What is that deep untruth? It's that I am this body. It's that I am this identity. If I say to you, who are you? And you give me your name, and you give me your age, and you give me your city of origin, and you give me your job, and you give me your height, and your weight, and your profession, and your bank account, and your sexual orientation, and your socioeconomic status, and you give me all of that. You may be giving me what you think are true answers. You're not purposely withholding anything from me. But it's still untruth on the deepest level, because that's not who you are. It's the right answer if I say to you, how old is your body? It's the right answer if I say to you, and how do you make a living? But if I say to you, who are you? And that's the answer you give me. It's untruth, not who you are. Because that keeps changing. Our age, our height, our weight, our bank account, everything keeps changing. If not within one life, certainly between lifetimes. What's consistent? Who is the I, even within one lifetime, that's consistent as the body keeps changing, as the roles keep changing? Who's that I? So the first untruth to truth is from identifying as this physical body to actually knowing the truth of who I am, which is soul, spirit. Every time you say to yourself, oh God, you're so stupid, untruth. It's also violence, but that's a different situation, different conversation. Untruth. Not because you're not stupid, but because on an even deeper level, the oh my God, I'm so stupid, or oh my God, I'm so ugly, or oh my God, I'm such a failure, or oh my God, any of those things that we say to ourselves, or even the opposite, oh God, I'm so great. Untruth. Because every one of those statements is based upon something I've just done, something I've accomplished, something I failed to accomplish, something I said that was really brilliant, something I said that was really stupid, whatever it may be. Based on physical body, role I'm playing, current role in the divine drama, untruth. Truth, soul, spirit, consciousness, love. Truth. That's who you are. And we say, oh God, lead me from darkness to light. Now when we talk about darkness, again it's darkness of ignorance. Who you are at the core is not dark. Many of us have a sense inside of, oh, I'm horrible, I'm a horrible person, I'm this, I'm that. And there really is a sense of inner darkness. But one of the most beautiful aspects to me of the Sanatan Dharma tradition, the Vedic tradition, what we call the Hindu tradition, is a core teaching that who you are at the core, at the source, is pure and perfect and divine and light. And it's only this ignorant identification with this temporary body that causes suffering. That identification, that ignorance is the darkness. So when we say from darkness to light, it's from the darkness of ignorance to the light of truth. The darkness of separation. Separation from God, thinking I'm separate from God, thinking I'm separate from each other, separate from myself. And then lead us from death to immortality. Now this is really interesting because of course the body is made of matter. It disintegrates, degenerates at a very predictable rate. No way to keep the body forever, no way to even keep it beyond, 110, 120 years. There was a Swamiji when I first got here who was 125 years old, who was just amazing. But, there's stories, 125, 130, and that's for the highest level of enlightened yogis who also happen to have come in with very special genes. The body can't live forever. Most of them don't even last 100 years, 90 years. So when we're talking about a prayer, immortality, impossible. So what does it mean? Doesn't mean, oh God, do the impossible. Doesn't mean, oh God, override your own laws of nature that you've created. It means, let me identify through light, through wisdom, through truth. Let me identify with the me who is already immortal, rather than with the me who is dying. Because we're all dying. Every one of us is a day closer to death every day. An hour closer to death every hour. We're all dying. So rather than identify with the me who's dying, let me identify with the me who is immortal. So that prayer, if you really take it and you really try to implement it in your life, it will give you a very robust spiritual immune system. Pujya Swamiji also has a special multivitamin of spiritual health that he gives, which is meditation, Begin the day with meditation. No reaction all day long. Whatever happens, don't react. Doesn't mean that you're not engaged. Doesn't mean you're not connected. But what it means is I act. I act based on my values, my ethics, my intention, my truth. Not react based on what samne wale, what the person in front of me is saying or doing. Because that's what most of us do, is we just react. We react to the people around us. Now we react to the beeps and the blips and the rings of our smartphones. We may be in the middle of doing something that we really wanted to do that was important. Suddenly we get a bleep, a blip, a ring, a bling, something. Now I'm off doing something else. It's a reaction. I was supposed to be doing this. I was reading, I was writing, I was doing something important. Suddenly, bleep. So-and-so posted this about you on Facebook. What? How dare they? Oh my God, I have to. Okay. Now, whatever I was doing, over. So, no reaction. And in the evening, introspection. How did the day go? How did I do? Not with judgment. Not with negativity toward the self, but just taking all of that which we did, what Pujya Swamiji calls our plus points and minus points. Whatever we did, offer them to God. Realize we're a tool in God's hands. The plus points are, of course, due to grace. The minus points are where our own darkness and ignorance came in. We just pray tomorrow, give me more light, more truth, more of an awareness of that infiniteness of who I am.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Of course. Any other questions? Yes.
Since following that, so like sometimes since you said like, some days are really, really bad, something happens out of sudden. So that time when we are highly emotional, what do we do that time to calm ourselves at that moment? Because that time sometimes we become very impulsive, very reactive and
So the dilemma is that most of us try to simply do disaster management, crisis control. Meaning, here I am in this state of crisis. Okay, how do I control myself? Not that it can't be done, all one, whatever it may be, but we should be ready. In the same way, if you know this keeps happening to me, you need to prepare in advance. Because in the midst of that, something has happened, I'm losing myself, I'm very upset, I'm very angry. It's very hard to pull yourself together then. Like if the walls are coming down on your house, it's very difficult to remember where the flashlight is if you didn't plan this in advance. It's very difficult to know what to do if you didn't already have all these earthquake drills of knowing what to do. So if you know, okay, I have a challenge. We won't call it a problem, we'll call it a challenge. It's an opportunity. I have an anger opportunity. I have a panic opportunity. Okay? So these opportunities keep presenting themselves in the form of anger in my life, in the form of panic in my life. So the first thing you do is you get yourself prepared. What do you need to be prepared? And so maybe it's a practice of the breath, a technique that you know in that moment you can go to, it will calm you down. Maybe it's a particular chant, somebody chanting a particular mantra in a beautiful way, somebody singing Om, whatever it may be, that you have that right there to play on your phone in that moment that calms you down, a beautiful chant. Maybe it's Pujya Swamiji singing the arati, whatever it may be. Some music. Maybe it's some smell for some aromatherapy, whatever it may be. But think about what is it that calms you down in those moments, and have it with you at all times. Number one. That's what we're going to call sort of superficial level, but nonetheless important, crisis management techniques. But number two is crisis prevention. So in LA, we can't prevent earthquakes. But when the earthquake in our life is our own emotions, we actually can learn to prevent that. And so we need to figure out, what is it that's causing me to lose myself? What is it that, not what's happening in the world around me, because that's not the question. The world around you will always happen. Today it's this, tomorrow it's something else. So the question is never, what is happening outside? The question is, what is happening inside that makes me so angry? And the first answer that comes inevitably is going to be, oh, that person does this. But that's not the answer. The answer is, because that person could do what they're doing to somebody else who wouldn't get angry. What is it in you that makes you so angry? What is it in you that causes you to panic in that moment so much? Look at that. What is the attachment you have to things being a different way? What is the attachment that you have to something being in a certain way? What is the fear you have of things being a certain way or not being a certain way? Examine those. And then realize, if it's true, I assume it's true, but realize that your peace of mind, your personal joy, deep joy, your freedom, spiritual freedom, is more important than what anybody else is saying or doing. Because people in the world are going to keep saying and doing really stupid and annoying things. And we can keep getting angry and frustrated and miserable and losing ourselves. Or we can say, I am committed to being a peaceful person because I know that the truth of who I am is soul, is spirit, is love, is truth, is consciousness, is divinity. And I'm committed to experiencing that in every moment. And being really attached to this person showing up on time, or this person doing what they say they're going to do, ruins that for me. When I first came to India, I got super frustrated all the time when everything was late. I grew up in a home where when my dad was supposed to be home at 7, by 6:45 my mom was already looking out the window saying, where is he? So he was late 15 minutes before he was even on time. So that was the home I grew up in. And I come to India, and someone's supposed to be somewhere at 7, and they show up at 10 o'clock the next morning and can't figure out what you're upset about. Now, there's two ways to live. One way is, this is how it should be, this is how I want it, this is right, the people should behave. And you've got a soapbox to stand on, right? I mean, here I am on the side of truth. I'm on the side of integrity. I'm on the side of doing what you say. I'm not asking for anything unreasonable. I'm just asking for you to keep your word and have some sincerity and integrity and respect, right? All good things. But the reality of the situation is it's never going to happen. They're never going to show up on time. And so my only choice becomes to be frustrated and miserable, Or to realize, okay, so they say 7 o'clock. It might be 7. It might be 9. It might be 10 the next morning. It might be never. Also likely. But along the way, I'm not going to lose my peace. Going back to my earlier example, that person who upsets you, who we're going to assume is suffering in some way, because people who hurt others do it because they're suffering. People who criticize, who complain, who shout, who yell, who harm, who abuse, they're suffering. So when that person sneezes, coughs, vomits their thing on me, all I've got left is my own freedom to either choose to get sick or choose not to get sick. You don't have any control over what the rest of the world does, but you do have control over how you respond. And so on the highest, deepest level for you, yes, keep in your purse, keep in your bag things that calm you down quickly. Disaster management, we'll call it. But let's do disaster prevention. Because these are disasters we can prevent. And this is about you making a conscious decision that you're anchoring, your grounding, your spiritual freedom, your spiritual truth is more important than however anybody else acts. And that's very important. People will try to get a reaction from you. When people are themselves angry and upset, suffering, they're going to try to get a reaction from you. But you have the freedom to choose. And here's what's really interesting. If you and I are holding opposite ends of a rope, imagine for a moment that there's this big rope here. You've got one end over there, I've got one end over here. We're both pulling, okay? There's a lot of what we're going to call tension in the rope, right? Now, imagine that you let go, okay? I don't let go. I'm still pulling lots of tension, but you let go. What happens to the rope? Right, rope falls down. 50% of it or all of it? All of it. That's the extraordinary thing about tension between people. Same thing as tension in a rope. Two people, tension between them, you only need one of them to let go. Now, it doesn't mean the other person's not going to keep suffering and being sick and pulling. They will do that. That's their own karmic package. But you're no longer connected to them by a rope at all, number one. Number two, the rope has no tension. There is no longer any tension connecting you with that person. They will either deal with their own karmic drama or they won't. That's up to them. But 100% of the tension is gone. So a lot of us think, I need someone else to be different, then it can be okay between us. But the truth is, you only need yourself to be different. You only need yourself to let go. And that's a very empowering choice that we all have. And so use that, okay? Because you're very young, and I don't want to see you disaster manage your anger opportunities forever, okay? Yeah, wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. And if you have any questions that we didn't get to today, and if for any reason you're not going to be here tomorrow, you can't be here, you can get your questions to Sevanandaji, and he can get them to me on our sheet of questions that comes in each night, and we'll keep taking them.